I want to say this right up front, that today's show is, I admit, a bit out of my comfort zone. Because I'm going to review the ATC SCM50 active speaker. And, the thing is, I don't really do active speakers. It's not that I never do them. I rarely do them. And the last one I did, I think was a year or so ago, the Genelec G3. It's a little stand mount speaker. And I fell in love with that guy. So yeah, it happens, but rarely. But this one today is a whole different breed, because this is a bigger speaker. This is a far more ambitious speaker than the little Genelec. Now, here's the thing. It all started when I heard the SCM50 at last year's Capitol Audio Fest. And I knew right then and there in the listening room at shows, and this doesn't happen every day, that I wanted to review the SCM50 because it sounded amazing, which is a feat at a hi-fi show, but also because ATC's approach to doing active is really different than pretty much everybody else. Here's how. Well, this is, by the way, a tri-amped design. It's a three-way design with a 200 watt amp on the woofer, 100 watt amp on the dome mid-range, and a 50 watt amp on the tweeter. Those three amps are not, underline not, Class D designs, which you see in nearly every active speaker. No, these are AB amplifiers. And it has an active crossover, by the way. And all of that is designed and built in the ATC factory in the UK, same as it ever was. Yeah, they don't outsource pretty much anything, right? They make their own drivers, they make their own cabinets, they veneer, they paint. They do everything in-house because they want it done their way. That is pretty special. But the cherry on top for me, as I was listening and talking about the speaker at the show at Capitol Audio Fest, was this speaker, unlike almost every other active speaker, does not use DSP, digital signal processing. None. Matter of fact, the only input on this speaker is an XLR input for analog input. And there's no digital conversion or anything inside the speaker. The signal starts analog and remains analog all the way through. Here's my gripe against DSP. I will try to make this as concise as I possibly can. You're stuck with the level of technology in the speaker that uses DSP. Even if that speaker has an analog input, it immediately converts the analog to digital inside, and you're stuck with that level of technology, as opposed to having a speaker like this that does not employ DSP, where any digital part of your system is external to the speaker. Like I'm going to be using the Mola Tembaki. But maybe next year I'll find another DAC that I like better. I'll switch over to that. So that's why it's a biggie for me. And by the way, most companies that employ DSP in their speakers, they don't have the engineering talent to do that themselves. They have to outsource that, and there's a back and forth between the speaker company and the company doing the digital bits. It gets kind of messy. So anyway, I was so happy that this speaker does not use DSP. One other thing really important is that ATC is a pro sound speaker company. Most of their business is in the pro market. Yes, it absolutely is. And they have some very high profile customers. Actually, Tom Petty, before he passed away that is, he bought this very model, the SCM50. Bruce Springsteen is one of their customers, the Rolling Stones. Pink Floyd has been using ATC speakers for decades as their reference monitors. Greg Calby, a mastering engineer I kind of know here in New York City, he uses ATC speakers, and they're used in a bunch of really cool studios. I'm going to put up some pictures right now. So ATC is really a pro sound speaker company, but does have, let's say, crossover appeal to the audiophile market. I definitely see that. I definitely feel that. I can't begin to express how much fun I had doing this review, because every piece of music I played, analog or digital, it just brought some energy to it, some life to it that really surprised me. I just want to bring this up early in the review, that while I'm reviewing the SCM50 active speaker, There is a twin brother to this speaker, the SCM50, that's passive, meaning it has passive crossovers and no active circuitry inside, which costs considerably less. And I'll get to the pricing soon enough. So it's a three-way design with a 25 millimeter soft dome that features a neodymium magnet. And there's a shallow waveguide around the dome. And then below the tweeter is a 3-inch dome mid-range driver. And this driver is an ATC specialty. They've been using drivers like this for a very long time because dome drivers have greater dispersion than cone drivers do. That's the main reason for it. But they're tricky to design. That's why very few companies even attempt 3-inch dome mid-ranges. But this one, look at the inside. I'm going to show you a cutaway view of the driver itself. And that giant magnet structure, that looks like it comes from a woofer, not a mid-range driver. Anyway, it is overbuilt to the extreme within the pursuit of making first-class, high-precision, studio-quality sound. And then below the dome, mid-range, is a 9-inch cone woofer. Now, all three of these drivers are designed, and I got to repeat this because I think it's really important, all three drivers are designed and made in-house in the ATC factory in the UK. Oh, also, very important is the active electronics, which you can easily remove from the cabinet. So in the unlikely occurrence that you do need service, you can ship just the amplifier and not the entire speaker back to the company. Most of the competition do not offer that feature. You have to ship an entire speaker in for service, not with ATC. And by the way, in the US, the service is handled, all of the service issues that could possibly occur are handled in the United States. And for the rest of the world, I believe they're handled in the UK. The warranty runs to 6 years. 6 years on the speaker, but also 6 years on the electronics. That is also, wow. If you look it up, most active speakers have maybe 5 years on the speaker itself, but only 2 years, and some maybe 3 years on the electronics. ATC gives you 6 years on both. Right now I'm going to give you the complete specifications for the SCM50, and I'll now also give you the price. The price is $21,999 a pair. That's for the active version. The passive version of the SCM50 is $6,000 less, so it's $15,999. And that price also, by the way, includes the stands that I'm using in the review, and also a very well finished cloth grill. But I will also make note that the SCM50 is available as a floor standing speaker, and the price for that is $24,999 a pair for the active version, and the passive version of the floor stander is $18,499 a pair. Now, the speakers are available in a wide variety of real wood veneer finishes and also painted finishes, satin finish paint, high gloss paint. There's lots of options there. Some of them are extra costs. Many of them are included in the base prices that I just quoted. I want to put up the specifications one more time and point to something that jumped off the page for me. And that is the minus 2 dB spec, meaning how low does this speaker go in the bass. And the minus 2 dB spec is 70 hertz, which isn't very low at all. But the minus 6 dB spec is 38 hertz, which is pretty deep, But I could just tell you, my experience of listening to this speaker in my room is this is not a bass shy speaker. It's very authoritative in the low end. The bass is very fast and clean and deep. Actually, incredible bass definition is one of the strengths of the low end of this speaker. It never gets lost. It never gets muddled. No, this one is always right on the money. This speaker never sounds like it's working hard. I could play it really loud, 95 dB. I mean, it could play a lot louder, but for me, that's my limit, is 95 dB. Never sounded like it was working very hard. It also sounded great at sort of mid-loud level. And even when I played it very quiet for late night listening, I never felt like, oh, I need to turn it up to feel the music. No, I could play it quietly and feel actually very satisfied. Now, the imaging is fantastic in terms of its precision of hearing each individual instrument and singer in their own space and just separating it out. And if some recordings with really great imaging, like my favorite Enos and stuff, it just bloomed and filled the room, and other recordings sounded very focused and precise, and I love that. So in other words, when it comes to imaging, it's a chameleon. I would say, though, it doesn't do image depth like a dipole speaker does, like my Pure Audio Project Duet 15s, which I will compare the SCM50 to the Duet 15s later on in this review. Oh, briefly, because there's only one thing to talk about, the connectivity options for this speaker are limited to just one, that XLR input. Now, if your preamp or DAC or something doesn't have XLR outputs, you can use an adapter and use it with a single-ended source. But so you don't need to use a separate amp. That's a huge plus. But as for the rest of my system that I used over the course of this review, I used the Holo Audio Serene preamp because it is a balanced preamp. The DAC was my Mola Tambaki, and it was the J's Audio CD transport for spinning CDs. And what else? Oh, the turntable, of course, the Technics SL1200G. The phono preamp, Parasound JC3 Plus, and a couple of cartridges, but the one that I was listening to a lot, because I haven't played it in a while, is the Grado Aeon 3. I've been in a Beatles mode lately, and I was playing this recent remastered version of the Beatles' greatest hits, the blue and the red, or is it the red and the blue? But in any case, I'm playing these things, and they don't sound like the earlier versions, because this is remixed to make them sound more like a contemporary stereo mix, meaning the vocals are always in the center and all that stuff, right? Now, the originals are very left-right, especially in the early period Beatles from like 62 to 66. They have that left-right stereo soundstage. This new version sounds modern, you know, and it has a more bass than the earlier versions. And I'm playing that, I'm thinking, yeah, this is cool. I like this. But then when I returned to my earlier masterings of the Beatles, and it has the original mix, this is more my speed. And it was great the way the SCM50 just made those comparisons so clear cut, you know. And I think it depends on where you come in with the Beatles. Are you know, relatively young and hearing all this stuff for the first time or recently? It's not in your DNA like it is in mine. You might prefer the new versions because they sound more like modern recordings. But me being an old guy, I do prefer the old ones, and the SCM50 made that abundantly clear. And then there was the Grateful Dead's Working Man's Dead. And I'm not a huge Deadhead, but I like this record, and this remastered version has a bunch of live tracks recorded at the Capitol Theater in 1971. It's a really good recording, really good, very live, very present. And the whole system was definitely putting out. And just the rhythm of it. Oh, and when there's these a cappella breaks, where it's just the vocals, they were so present, so real. It was Goosebump City, just hearing the band in such an intimate way through 53 years of time and space. And here I am, right there. It felt like I was right there. Next, I want to talk about this record by Max Roach. It's actually his band. He's in the band. It's called Boom. And the album title is Collage. Anyway, it's an all-percussion ensemble. Big drums, little drums, percussion instruments. And the way the SCM50 handled these big dynamics and small dynamics at the same time. Some of them are really powerful. Some of them are very, very delicate. There's this interplay between all the musicians. There's about 10 players in the band. And the way the SCM50 just let it through with no strain, even when I played it pretty loud, not realistically loud, but loud. And I'm just digging. I'm reveling in the tone colors of these different instruments, hand percussion like bongos and stuff, metal sounds. All of that was so well played by the SCM50. So, I do want to talk about the SCM50's top end. It's so clear, it's so precise, but never bright or in your face. There's a shading to it, a tone color that you hear, for the different kinds of instruments, metallic percussion instruments, wood, all that stuff really comes through very, very well. And it adds to the realism. Now, let's stop for a second. ATC is really a pro sound company. But this speaker does not have what I associate with the sound of a monitor speaker, the kind that I hear in recording studios, where too much of the time, recording studio monitors sound too in your face, too forward, too much information coming at me. So it's not actually pleasant to listen to music. And recording engineers will say things like, well, it's a tool, I need to hear everything in the mix to know what I'm doing. And I say, sure, but it's not music, it's not sound for pleasure. And somehow ATC manages to make true monitor speakers that are actually very listenable by tender audiophile ears. So at this point, I wanted to do a comparison with my reference speakers, which are Pure Audio Project Duet 15s. Now these speakers sell for $6,500 a pair. So I didn't have any other $22,000 speakers lying around that I could compare to the ATCs, so this is what I got and this is what I used. But of course, you have to throw in the cost of the amplifier, and the amplifier that was hooked up to the Pure Audio Project was the Passlabs XA25, which is $5,500. So that makes a little fair contest. But in any case, the Pure Audio Project speaker, being an open baffle, sounded, yes, more open, more spacious. It's a dipole speaker. There's a lot of sound coming out of the back of the speaker and also obviously coming out of the front. So it energizes the room in a completely different way than the SCM50. No doubt about it. And the Pure has a 15-inch woofer, so the bass was bigger and fatter and just juicier. and I love it for that. But the Pure Audio Project can't begin to touch the SCM50 for resolution and clarity and dynamic shading and all that stuff. No, it's not really a fair contest at all. The SCM50 wins hands down. But in the end, it does sound like, because it is, a smaller speaker. I was playing a lot of vinyl over my listening sessions, but I want to just talk about this one album, this Dr. John album, which is early for him. And it's a big band with background singers and percussion and bass and guitars and horns and stuff. It's a big, but feels live in the studio album. It has that sense of people playing together in a room, not like overdubbing and adding pieces of music later on. No, they're all there and they're all playing, they're all hearing each other. And here I am, 50 plus years later, listening to that event, because that's what it feels like, an event, something happening in real time right in front of me. And the SCM50 definitely released that energy into my room. And for that, yes, it definitely got me going. So let's just move right on to, so Steve, what do you really think of the ATC SCM50 active stand mount speaker? Well, it is an awesome performer. That's a word I don't usually use to describe the sound of a speaker, but this speaker performs. It releases the music into your room without holding anything back. And because of the, let's say, the pro sound heritage of the company, it's not like some audiophile speakers that sweeten the sound. No, this is more, here's what's in the recording in the best possible light. Yeah, maybe that's it. And yeah, it is an expensive speaker. $21,999 a pair for the active version, at least. That's a lot of money. But when you think about, compared to many of ATC's competitors, that are doing a lot of their work, let's say, offshore and assembling it in a factory someplace else. No, ATC builds it, designs and builds it on their own in the UK. And yeah, so that actually costs money. But the real benefit to you over the long term, because this is the kind of speaker you're going to keep for hopefully a very long time, is that the company is going to be there to handle any service issues that come up. And that is huge. And that's why it's worth that price. So anyway, a big kudos, thumbs up from me for the ATC SCM50. And I'm pretty sure that's a lot of money. So I'm going to make an effort to review a much more affordable ATC speaker later on this year. I certainly hope so. But here's the thing I do know for sure is, yes, it is now time for the Audiophiliac viewer system of the day. Hey, this is Sebastian's system. He lives in France, and he has a rather international system there, and you'll see what I mean. The speakers are Joseph Audio Perspectives. Those are made in the US. The integrated amp is an Luxity 1 Mark II, made in Denmark. The phono preamp is an RCM Sensor 2, made in Poland. The turntable is an AMG Gyro, made in Germany. Oh, the phono cartridge is an Analog Relax EX300, made in Japan. Speaker cables are Purist Audio design. They're actually the Neptune bi-wire cables. Those are made in the US, and so are the interconnect cables, also made by Purist Audio design. And it's the model Equius. The power cables are full legato Referenza, made in France. And the power distribution is by Webex. It's called the Alrexos, made in Spain. Anyway, thank you, Sebastian. Okay, we are back. My name is Steve Guttenberg, and I am the Audiophiliac, and I want to thank you for watching my video, and hopefully many other videos that I've made here for the channel. And if you like what I'm doing here on the channel, please consider contributing to my Patreon. The address is on the screen right now. And by the way, this is a speaker review, and I've done lots of speaker reviews, and I have playlists of all the different kinds of videos I make for the channel. And I urge you to look over those playlists, and you will find a lot to binge on. By the way, if you have yet to subscribe to this channel, yeah, we're getting so close to 250,000 subscribers. That will definitely happen this month. And I don't know how I'm going to celebrate it, but I'll figure something out. And that's it. We're good now, I think, right? So I'm going to thank you again for watching and hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.